Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. We're going to do a quick sizing exercise to glean some MRR, ARR on the opportunity here. First place I'm at is my.nutanix.com, top left-hand corner. Once you authenticate into here, it's just kind of a quick way to get to different facets of Nutanix as a company. What we're focused on is Nutanix Sizer. To the right of that, just a small plug. Great alternative. For our vTools is using the Nutanix collector. It does a great job. It has a 7-day look back. It takes a peek really on the 95th percentile consumed, which really helps with consolidation and right sizing activities. We're going to go ahead and hit Nutanix Sizer. Once you authenticate in, you're sort of presented with a similar view. Under my scenarios, likely you wouldn't have really any to date. But do note the shared scenarios. We do have the ability to collaborate in real time on particular opportunities, clone those, iterate those, etc. The magic button we want is create new scenario, which I have done. Let me hit this top tab here. This next window is kind of walking me through likely what your view is going to be. So I've got a scenario name, that's ABC Company. It's a VMC takeout, target being NC2. And then I've got a date to just allow some sort of recognition around versioning. I don't have an opportunity for this, and we are creating a new cluster environment. And this defaults to our Portfolio 2.0, which is our licensing. You'll have to select the install country, which I have right here. And down below, we've got, although not requirements for partners, these are best practices and further ways that we can kind of collaborate across company, across discipline. Executive summary, the business problem and statement here is we have a 270% renewal increase by the end of the year. ABC Company is looking for a Broadcom exit strategy. The requirements are going to be from this RB Tools. I've sort of referenced that RB tool name here. Powered off is out of scope, and these will be right-sized as a part of this activity. All of those assumptions are captured here on those doc, and we'll make our way over there in just a moment. Under constraints, I put 12/25 as a cutover to really mitigate that 12/30 renewal date. Assumptions, again, I've referenced this doc. Under risks, if ABC Company does not attend or push out the cloud migration workshop, that could impact the current cutover timeline of, again, 12/25/2024. Lastly, I put a description, which is just the name of the RB Tools source environment there. We'll head over to the sizing assumptions, just a quick and easy document or Excel sheet. Myself, I worked with Bob Wheeler, who's a project owner, who's got intimate awareness of the actual data pull. And Raj both signed off on this sizing vetting call on 6/28/24. Our first RB Tools was pulled prior to that. Under the assumptions that, again, we vetted through with their approval, they have a current makeup of 18 i3 hosts that make up that VNC environment today. And that represents a single SDDC in California for production. So out of those 387 total VMs, there were no NUMA outliers, definitely a storage bound, in aggregate representing these workloads. More to that in just a minute. We do have 27 VMs out of scope for migration. Those were the powered off. An additional 7 we identified as being deprecated pre-migration. 11 templates that were out of scope. So our net total for migration to the new target environment being NC2 is 345 total VMs. So we ran a new RB Tools against that new poll with those 45 VMs that were out of scope for that poll. Additionally, Bob and Raj have both agreed that the i4 hosts are sort of their new standard for this target environment. So we've got a good context, some awareness about this opportunity if others needed to get some insight. Back over to our opportunity. As soon as you're done, you're going to hit create. And now we're going to be in a good position to actually start the sizing activity. We're going to go over to import workloads. I'm going to hit import. It defaults to collector. We'll go over to RB Tools, which represents, again, our pool today. We've got a quick reference to RV tools if anyone needs to, grab that. But to contextualize this based on the assumptions, really what's in scope today is powered on only. So those powered off VMs we spoke about embedded prior are sort of out of scope. So I'll keep that as default. Next, this is a right sizing activity. And so we're going to absolutely change this to consumed. We're focused on what are they consuming out of those aggregate i3 metal resources today. The flash percentage really is out of scope, applies to on-prem. This create workloads by is sort of a somewhat important notation. The profile, if we go above 500 VMs, and in order to get that scale, we're going to start grouping like-for-like resources together. And those like-for-like resources are going to be these VM applications. And we'll put them in a name, something like extra small, small, medium, large, XL, etc. Otherwise, if I have less than 500 VMs, I can retain each one of those VM entity names and have a full output and list here in Sizer. Once I'm in a good position, I'm going to go to upload file. Again, you've noted I've kept it on the profiles. I'll come back and touch on that here in just a moment. Here's my RV Tools pull. I'm going to go ahead and open that. Pretty snappy, should be redirected almost automatically, which I was. You also notice that I'm under what's known as our workload section. So here, great opportunity to give a little context here. I've got my profiles. You'll see them all along here. But additionally, I have something that does not look like a profile name. These just, think of these as non-standard deviations. These are particular VM, application VMs that consume an odd amount of resources to a degree that we couldn't couple them with another one and give it a profile. So we kind of have a mix of both worlds here. If I need to do anything at this point, if there's a growth factor, if it's, replicating out, if there's, a change rate I need to attribute over a time, I can select those, as a bulk activity that I can change, or I can get down to the particular application VM. Now, it can become a little bit tricky when you're doing the large profiles. So just know going ahead of time, whether we're going to have to make any modifications to represent a timeline of growth in the future, that you're in a good position for that. Once we're done, we're going to hit solution here. And the first thing it's going to do is default to what's known as NX, which is our super micro offering on-prem. So the first thing that we want to do is find our cluster one, which I've identified here, and go all the way to the right and hit modify. Once we've hit modify, we're going to be applying this to all workloads in the cluster because we're going to be having all workloads represented on AWS. I'm going to go ahead and find NC2 on AWS, which is right here. And we'll start scrolling down. First thing to note is this hardware template. I could have gone to the extra step of creating a hardware template based on the feedback on that assumption tab and created an I4I as that standard. So that's always an option here, and it's meant to provide standardization and automation to help our sellers get the task done a bit more efficient and quicker. So here's all of our models today. We do know that the I4I is what's in scope. So I'm going to unselect and just select the I4I as that contender. The minimum CPU frequency is sort of out of scope. That's typically in scope for an EUC production workload, which this is not an EUC. It's a general server virtualization workload. And then the CVM per node, we default, if I select this, to 4 cores and 28 gigs of RAM. Depending on how much of the Nutanix stack the customer is running, this could go up to 12 cores and 48 gigs of memory as an example there. We'll continue moving on here. As we come under the cluster settings, I think what's worth calling out here is we do provide the ability to have mixed clusters. On the NC2 AWS side, there's some guardrails that are based on Intel, but as an example, I can mix the i3, i3EN, and the i4I all into a single or multiple clusters there. Down below, you'll see production, test dev, and mission critical. This usually aligns to different service level agreements. So if this is a large complex sizing activity, this would apply here. We know this is a production environment. We'll keep it at that default, and we'll go ahead and hit apply here. Once we hit apply, it should come up relatively quick, which it did. So a couple things to note here. We size this on n+1. So if there is some sort of failure, within this this cluster here, we'll continue, serving out IO without disrupting any of the ongoing operations. What I do like about sort of our view in the UI is I can quickly glean where the workload sits at. Do I have any additional runway? And then maybe the most important thing is we can sort of verify that this indeed is a storage heavy workload by the simple fact that the storage is consuming more resources than the memory and the compute here. So if we wanted to start calculating, costs and such, a couple things to call out. Introducing in AOS 6.8, we have the ability to attach EBS volumes, any GP3 EBS, onto these metal systems directly. And part of that sizing activity, if it's determined that a lot of storage is needed, you'll see in a lot of the modeling that EBS will be, recommended as part of that solution. If you want those details, we'll hit this little information mark right here, and I can see that I have no EBS in scope here. I'm just leveraging that local NVMe disk. And again, I've got 13 instances here. So the next place, if I wanted to get to that ARR and MRR, is I'd probably head over to the AWS Marketplace. Let me go ahead and zoom in here one more time. I'm under the pricing section right here. So we know, roughly what the cost is going to be because we've got, a physical core here. So if I go back to the i4i, let me just grab my calculator, drag my calculator over here. So the i4i has 64 cores and we have 13 hosts. So we have 832 cores that we need to calculate and get that NCI pricing on. This first one, the NCI Pro, we can go ahead and apply that on a 36-month or 3-year term, which they're also going to do a reserved instance on that i4i. So we would take those 832 and times it by that column all the way to the right. And now I'm represented, with that 3-year cost on the Nutanix licensing side. I've gone to the extra step. I've identified the i4i host here. I'm in the AWS pricing calculator. I've gone up to 13 to that number of instances. I've made some of the adjustments down here, and we can kind of see roughly in that bottom left-hand corner what my monthly cost is, and I've got the ability to calculate the rest here, and that can arrive at my MRR or ARR. Last place I wanted to take everyone real quick is on the actual Nutanix sizer. I'm actually in the help section right now. Let me flip over here and get a bigger view. Lots of questions come up on, what is the logic behind sizer? How does it come up with the calculations and recommendations it does? It's a very advanced sizing algorithm. I would include or encourage everyone here to definitely check out some of the miscellaneous tabs here, the cluster sizing, the workload sizing, and we've got some approaches around sizing approach and logic there. If you do get stuck, please reach out. Don't hesitate. We'd be happy to work through any issues you guys have. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.